Hey everyone, it's Saturday, so you know what that means. Another My Hero Academia Season 5 review. Except this time, I'm looking at the season in its entirety and will be giving my overall thoughts on the whole shebang. We started this little journey about 6 months ago, and there were certainly some lows, but a fair amount of highs too. Now, if it isn't obvious, this video will contain spoilers for all of Season 5, but it will also include some manga spoilers, so just keep that in mind. And yeah, I guess without further ado, let's just get into this. So, when I look back at the beginning of Season 5, I actually start to think even further back on how Season 4 ended. The absolutely amazing battle between Endeavor and the high-end Nomu, Hood, just left me craving more from this series. Of course, there was that normal year break in between the seasons, so the wait was even more excruciating. But once the end of March rolled around, I was ready. But Bones wasn't, as they gave us that standard reintroduce the main cast filler episodes. Honestly, I really don't like these. I know some people would just like the studios to stick only to the source material, but the occasional filler episode isn't usually that big of a deal. That said, this particular episode wasn't the best. I mean, I liked it a bit more compared to Season 3's swimming pool episode, but it was a huge step down compared to the Season 4 one. I don't care what anyone says, the journalist dude was a fun character, and most things about the episode were fun. But yeah, this episode was just okay. I liked the bit where Mirio kept jumping off the bridge, and seeing Kaminari driving the car was just silly. But yeah, it really wasn't all that noteworthy, aside from the post-credits that hopped right into the aftermath of the Hood fight that Season 4 ended on. So from that point onwards, we've got straight up canon to look forward to aside from one episode, which will be a point of contention I'll need to talk about later. Aside from the filler episode that kicked off the season, as well as the second episode that wrapped up the Pro Hero arc that was mostly covered in Season 4, My Hero's 5th season covers 3 arcs from the manga, being the Joint Training arc, the Meta Liberation Army arc, probably better known as My Villain Academia, and finally, the Endeavor Agency arc. Now, the latter two actually had their orders swapped in the anime, with the Endeavor arc coming before My Villain Academia. Now, this right here was the biggest point of contention with practically all of the manga readers, as this was not only a little bit of a confusing choice to make, narratively speaking, but there were definitely some choice decisions made while adapting one of the Western fans' favorite arcs of the whole series. Honestly, talking about that alone might be the bulk of the video, but we'll get there when we get there. So for now, let's start off with the Joint Training arc. In the manga, this arc went on for 24 chapters, which was adapted into 10 episodes. The point of this arc, at least at first, is to pit Class A and B against each other, see how they have grown, while also testing Shinzo, the boy with the brainwashing quirk, to see if he'll make the cut for the hero course in his second year. Also, Deku's quirk went a little haywire in his sleep thanks to One For All's predecessors, so he's a bit iffy on using One For All. So going into this, it seems many people found it to be one of the most boring storylines of the series. Now, it's not really bad by any means, but the matches did feel like they went on for a while at times. Many fans had hoped the pacing issues would have been fixed in the anime adaptation, but it seems Bones did want to stay faithful to the manga on that one. When you have the individual 5 teams fight spanning across multiple episodes, with each one of them having an assessment that followed it, yeah, it really did wear me down at times. That said, the fights all looked pretty good for the most part. The animation and art seemed pretty consistent throughout, with notable great-looking scenes coming from Todoroki's fight with Tetsu, pretty much every scene that had Bakugo during that match. And how could I forget Yutaka Nakamura's stellar cut for Ida's fight with Mudman? There was actually another part later on in that episode that I believe many people thought was Nakamura, but was actually Yukina Kosaka, who seems to be inspired by Nakamura's work, which is absolutely fine by me. More fantastic animators on board is always a good thing. Now, don't worry, of course I didn't forget to talk about the big reveal. During the final match, we have our protagonist rematching Shinzo for the first time since the sports festival, and he thinks he's safe to use his quirk. But then some energy tendrils burst out of his arm and goes crazy on the battlefield. Uraraka gets Shinzo to brainwash Deku to calm him down, and during that state of unconsciousness, Deku ends up face to face with one of One For All's predecessors, who tells him that One For All has been storing all of their quirks and powering them up over the years, and that he'll be unlocking all 6 of them in the future. So yeah, it's a pretty big deal. One for All was already busted, and now it's even seemingly more so. So Uraraka slaps him awake, the match continues, Deku controls his quirk as best as he can, and they win the match, leaving everyone confused on what they saw. Considering Deku was confused enough himself, he was able to play dumb, and everyone just believed that it was an offshoot of his current power. Oh, and also Shinzo is likely going into the hero course for year 2. So honestly, pacing issues aside, it's a solid arc. We got some major reveals and have some stories set up for the future. But yeah, 10 episodes felt like a bit much. Definitely felt like all of this could have been accomplished in 8 or maybe even less, but it is what it is. So next is where things start to get a little shaky. Bones shocked everyone by doing the Endeavor Agency arc first, with My Villain Academia to come later. Now look, I'm not against arcs being rearranged if you can come up with a decent reason for doing so. Most people assume the reason Bones did this was to have the anime coincide with the third movie better, as it takes place during the boys' work study in the Endeavor Agency arc. And that's definitely a very believable statement, but I really don't think that was the only reason. Now, unless someone working for the company comes forward with what the plans were internally, all we can do is speculate. My best guess is that the movie definitely had some influence on it, but it's also entirely possible that Bones knew My Villain Academia was an excellent way to end the season with a bang, and that trying to make it this big event that was shrouded in mystery on not only the hero's part this time around, but also the viewer's part for a handful of episodes would make for an interesting experience. And I really believe they could have done it perfectly. But, well, we'll touch on that when it's time. But I gotta talk about the Endeavor Agency arc first. The setting here is that it's Christmas time, and work studies are now mandatory for hero students, with Deku and Bakugo both at a loss of what to do. On Deku's end, Gran Torino is busy, as well as Sir Night-Eye's agency, as Sir's passing has put serious strain on his sidekicks, as he usually took care of the agency's massive amount of paperwork on his own. As for Bakugo, he isn't able to head to Best Jeanist agency since he's gone missing. Well, no need to fear, as Todoroki invites them to do their work study with Endeavor. Good ol' Enji isn't thrilled about this, as he wanted to exclusively work with Shoto, but also wasn't really in a position to deny his son's request, so he does so reluctantly. Well, not too long into this, Hawk shows up, acts a little strange, hands off the villain Destro's book to everyone, and dips. Within the book he gave to Endeavor is a coded message about the Liberation Army and their plans to attack just 4 months from that point on. With the pretty serious situation at hand, Endeavor wastes no time training the 3 boys to the fullest, as they'll need it. Now, up until this point, I still didn't see too much of an issue with the reorder. There's a little bit of confusion with Hawks potentially infiltrating a different villain organization since he was actively trying to get into the League of Villains. But he's the number 2 hero doing big missions for the Safety Commission. If you go into this without knowing what's already happened, you would probably just think that's normal. But the first issue with this reorder comes in episode 103, with Hawks briefing the top people in the Liberation Army with what he's doing when it comes to spreading their philosophy. Their faces have been shrouded, so you don't know who they are just yet, but then the League of Villains get shown with them. Now, the audience knows that the League is working with the Liberation Army in some capacity, but I'm even willing to bend on this a little. There's really no hint of malice between the characters here. So again, not knowing what was happening as an anime only, you could just assume the 2 groups decided to work together. Not the best direction you could have gone, but you can only reorder some scenes so much. But then, this is where things really start to go downhill for some people. With only 10 episodes left, and only being halfway through the Endeavor Agency arc, people were naturally worried about My Villain Academia getting rushed, considering it's close to the same number of chapters the joint training arc was, and that got 10 all for itself. I was still pretty optimistic at this point though, because while My Villain Academia is certainly deserving of having a solid number of episodes, I already admitted the joint training arc could have been 8 episodes or less because of how long it dragged on for. So, not too big of a deal. But then comes the movie tie-in filler episode. Look, I'm not going to pretend like this was one of the best episodes of My Hero that's ever come out, but it was decent fun, and I always find it nice to see some of the other characters get the spotlight. I mean, who doesn't love a good Froppy appearance? But now, with 9 episodes left, Bones is really starting to cut it close. But again, I still have faith in them at this point. Then the next episode adapts one character alongside an ungodly number of flashbacks. Look, I think Endeavor being a bit more introspective and reflecting on himself is a good thing for his character. But they really adapted one chapter for this episode, with such little time left in the season. That really was a gut punch. So was finding out that their brother died at a young age. But no matter, the goalpost is being moved, and now we're just waiting to see if MVA can really be pulled off in like 6 episodes. So, to wrap up the Endeavor agency arc, the ending fight was solid, and Endeavor finally figures out what he's gotta do to atone for his sins. Continue to run away. Look, that might not be fair, because it does seem pretty clear a few members of his family don't want him around, but there are so many other things he could have attempted before, rather than just saying, nah, they don't want me around, so I'll just build them a new house and stay here. Like, if you've exhausted your options, sure, but you haven't. IDK, I'll move on from this. Now, it's finally time for what we've all been waiting for. That's right, My Villain we've got the Kurogiri Shirakumo episode. Look, this was a fantastic episode, but it's almost as if they know what they're doing at this point. Okay, now we're in My Villain Academia. Are they gonna show the Detnerat commercial and Redestro killing his assistant? Nope. Well, okay, I guess it's not that important. How about Giren's kidnapping and interrogation before they contact the League? No? Well, I mean, Giren is just a minor part to all of this once everything goes down, so that's fine, I guess. But surely we don't have to worry about seeing the League in dire straits and taking on the Creature Rejection Clan, right? I mean, that was like 2/3 of the chapter actually titled My Villain Academia, so it's gotta be there, right? Well, yeah, this is the straw that broke the camel's back. Don't get me wrong, I was still upset at the other things being cut, but I feel it was a big mistake to cut the Creature Rejection Clan battle. This goes way beyond the character development Spinner would have got from its inclusion. Now we're cutting stuff that has potentially big world-building properties to it. See, we get a little hint at discrimination towards heteromorphic quirk wielders throughout the series, but never to the extent of a psychotic religious cult practicing their beliefs. I mean, I feel that's a pretty big deal. It's much more than just casual comments from people being warded out by how some people look. These are people that want to kill people with mutant-type quirks. While there haven't been any more references to them in the manga since the League murdered all of them, the fact is that this was the first serious look at the darker sides of even the villainous groups. And it was just completely cut. So I'm gonna throw up a spoiler warning here because I have to quickly mention something from some of the most recent chapters of the manga. I'll let you know what time to skip if you want to avoid that. So yeah, none of that would be the biggest deal in the world if it was just a one-off thing of discrimination that we never see again. But the fact is we do see it again. We can see citizens willing to attack innocent people because they deem that the way they look makes them suspicious. Maybe it's not as serious as being a cult member, but that just shows that there are more than just the psychos out there that don't trust heteromorphs. It really can just be your average Joe Schmo, and I don't think that's just a one-off thing either. I wholeheartedly believe that kind of discrimination will be touched on in a major way in future chapters, and I just think it was really bad form to get rid of the first major instance of this happening. Okay, spoilers are over here, so back to the main point. We now have less episodes, scenes cut, and on top of all of that, things are starting to look a little shaky production-wise. However, with all that said, I gotta say, My Villain Academia really wasn't all that badly paced. Sure, there were a few moments that I felt could have used the tiniest amount of more screen time, but overall, the fast-paced action of these two groups fighting each other felt really good. Getting Toga's backstory, her fight with Curious, and seeing her quirk evolution. It was all just great stuff. Also, come on. Twice overcoming his trauma and busting out the Sad Man's parade? Unbelievably dangerous for the heroes. I don't even need to mention both Tenko and Shigaraki's origins. Just devastating, sick, and insane. And even with some scenes not looking their best, we still managed to get amazing cuts for all their fights, especially Shigaraki's. We see Yukina Kosaka come in with one of the best scenes of the season, and even when the animation wasn't crazy, the general looks of everything was top-notch. My Hero really does look top-tier when those thick outlines are on the characters. All that said, I still wish production hadn't fallen apart during the most hyped arc of the season. but I'm not going to just hate on everything here. People want to say they butchered it because Bones wanted to give the villains as little screen time as possible, and they care about the movies and whatever other nonsense. Here's the deal. Bones has made 2 other movies for My Hero, and that never really messed with production before. I mean, seasons 3 and 4 had some of the best looking cuts to this date, and stayed solid throughout their course. So, what was different? Well, I don't know if these people were aware, but we're still in the middle of a pandemic right now. Japan got hit hard from the Olympics, the horrendous spreading of new variants around the world, and their particularly inadequate vaccine rollout. I have no doubt this played a major, if not the largest role in production issues for the studio. If that is in fact the case, go ahead and criticize those higher-ups for not delaying episodes until conditions were better for their employees. You can even get them on switching up the narrative being a creatively poor decision. But saying that they got sloppy because they hate the villains while only caring about the movies is just preposterous to me. But hey, that's just my 2 cents. Anyhow, the season ends with the Paranormal Liberation Front being formed, the UA students showing off their new moves, and everyone preparing for war. It's definitely a good way to get everyone hyped up for the next season. And honestly, I can't wait. As much as I'd like more My Hero as soon as possible, I think taking that standard 1 year off will be really good for Bones, as I truly think or hope that the pandemic will be a little simmered down by then. Anyways, those are my thoughts on My Hero Season 5. While it was far from perfect, I think there was still a lot of enjoyment to be had from this season, and I can only hope that we all get what we want from Season 6. But tell me, what did you all think? Do you believe all the negativity towards this season is overblown? Or did Bones really mess this one up? Be sure to let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Hey guys, before the video closes out, I just want to thank you so much for bringing your support over here on Mystic Sage. I upload every Saturday and Sunday and strive to bring you guys a review and some fun discussion content, so your viewership means the world. Also, if you want a little more from Mystic Sage, head on over to TikTok and check us out over there for more fun, bite-sized anime videos. I've also got an Amazon store where I sell tons of cool anime merch, so check it out. For real this time though, thanks again for watching. I'm Mystic Sage, and I'll see you next time with some more great anime content.